Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is the greatest time of the day. From the center of the universe, New York City, it's the main event you've been waiting for. It's time to go in the cage with Cyclone.
And your Messiah is back in your life. Where else am I going? But guess what? It is not raining. And guess what? First time. 33 shows, first time in studio guest. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, right off the bat, got to bring up one of the big men, I could say, over at the ISKA, Tom Sconzo. How you doing?
How are you?
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much. It's an honor. A lot of fun.
It's an honor for me to actually have you here. I really, really appreciate it. So, right off the bat, how did you get started at the ISKA?
Well, that's I guess the truth of the matter was I had my sights set on becoming commissioner of the New York State Athletic Commission. I had there was a petition that was started to get somebody in there. And a couple thousand signatures went in and became bigger than I had imagined. And David Berlin had interviewed me for the position. At the time, MMA was just becoming legal, and they were creating this thing. And I met with him and John Salgado and Eric Bentley, and I got the nod. And at the last minute, it didn't happen. So I was like, wow. But Corey Schaefer, the president of the ISKA, and I had been friends for a long time, and there was a need for a new sanctioning body in New York. And ISKA, 300 shows in 10 countries around the world, he had asked me if I'd be interested, and he would have brought the sanctioning to New York on the condition that it was me. And it turned out to be a lot bigger than I anticipated. Now, first full year this year, on December 14th, I have two shows. I have the Triton MMA, the Space in Westbury, and I have Friday Night Fights at the bar, Broad Street Ballroom, and that'll bring us up to 38 shows this year. So we just became a lot bigger than I had thought it would be, but run with it. We regulate Bellator, we regulate Glory. I was supposed to be in Japan next week for Karate Combat, and we did that show at the on the 102nd floor of the Freedom Tower. So we're doing these amazing shows. I'm thrilled to be a part of it and be a part of the more important part, doing it the right way. The official, they just spent the weekend at the New York State Athletic Commission. Kevin McDonald did a certification of referees and judges, and I had the ISKA team there. So we're raising the bar on the officials. And we don't want to hear that people have been robbed, and you hear it way too often. And take it out of the judges' hands. Well, if you've got two well-matched fighters, I mean, really well-matched, it is in the judges' hands. You know, if you're going to show and it's like knockout after knockout, you have to wonder maybe the matchups weren't that great. So we're pretty thrilled with what's going on. I'm very proud of the people that are working on my ISK team. I did 4 shows 2 weeks ago in the same weekend. We did Rage in the Cage in Rochester. We did Gladius in Syracuse. I had Joe Pulio's Top Kick Super Fights the Radisson and Hauppauge, and Friday Night Throwdown in LA, which is another story that we could talk about.
Now, if you have all these events at the same time, not necessarily, but same day. You as one of the top dogs, how do you decide which one you're going to,
That's
go
it's
to?
a good question, and it really depends. What's going on in this particular instance. I went up to Syracuse as it was our first show with them, so it was important for me to be there. And generally speaking, I've been doing this for the last. I've been in the martial arts the last 48 years. I've been with officiating for the last 15 or so, not including boxing, and that goes back to about 20 years. But I know the promoters. I've either fought on their card, I've either had my fighters on their card, or I've officiated on their cards. I know, and then I also know when I have a show and I'm putting Chris Wagner as my rep, and I know my officials. I don't have to worry about it. The shows pretty much run themselves in terms from the ISKA point of view. I have people that I depend on, and they never let me down. So I have a great team.
So what's a typical day like for you?
A lot of paperwork. I'm doing, like today, I spent most of my day. I have two shows coming up next Friday, and one's an MMA show. That's Triton, and the other one is a Muay Thai show. So, but they both require blood work, medicals for the fighters. So we've already gotten past the original where you submit the 10-day notice to the New York State Athletic Commission, the fight card. I've already approved the matchups, and now it's a matter of making sure that everybody has their meds in, their blood work, their meds. I make sure that the insurance companies send me the paperwork, so I know we have that. I actually get very involved in assigning the physicians, so I know who they are. I'm also sending the blood work and the medicals to the physicians in a Dropbox. They're approving them. Make sure that the Hep B, surface antigen, Hep C antibody, HIV, everything is done correctly, because you'll have blood work come back. And today, as a matter of fact, I was looking at one, it was Hep B antibody. I can't approve that. They have to go back and redo the test. Hep B antibody, it's nothing. It tells me you got a vitamin deficiency. The surface antigen tells me if you've got something that another fighter has to worry about. Hep C, big one. And if it's not correct, you're not only at risk yourself because you've got a problem. You're at risk. You're putting your opponent at risk, and the referee. We just went through this. I sanctioned Kasai, which is an amazing grappling. Some of the best grapplers, jiu-jitsans in the world, coming, ex-former or current UFC, Bellator, top people, black belts, and really, if you're into BJJ, and that's one of the things I have I'm passionate about. One of the main event guys tested positive for Hep C. And it turned out it was something that was in his blood. Whether you're born with some type of blood thing, but we needed further confirmation from an infectious disease doctor that he can't put anybody else at risk. And so we had to stop that fight, and that's huge. But I mean, if you don't do this stuff, you don't want to be part of that show, and too much going. And that's why I'm really happy with being part of the ISKA, because up till now there was too much rubber stamping going on. You can't put fighters at risk. Their future, their lives, what they go home bring to their wives and children. So we do what we have to do to keep it 100% safe for the fighters. That's our number one issue.
If that's, what would you say is the most frustrating part for you? That just you want to swing at somebody.
Again, getting the medicals in on time. I mean, we can't do this 2 days before. I can't take their blood work and their medicals at the weigh-in. This is your job. This is what you do for a living. Get it done. As it is, blood work's good for 6 months, unless there's a fight in between and then you've been at risk or whatever. Medicals are good for a year. Get it done. If you're an amateur and you want to advance your career, this is your responsibility. And so many fighters just don't take it seriously enough, and they delay and they wait. Or I look at it, and I just sent today to the promoter that one fighter, his blood work was outdated. Get it done. Get it done. Go get it. We can have it within 24 to 48 hours. You can go I can send you to a lab. I can get you the prescription from a doctor, the script to go get it done. So it comes back to me, it's good. You're good for 6 more months. And they won't do it to me. That's frustrating. And you know, I know the old days, they say, oh, we don't need it. Even in, there was the big thing with the rise of all these jiu-jitsu tournaments, Guess what? It's unarmed combat. This is it. Nobody, well, most guys that at that level of jiu-jitsu also fight, whether it's stand-up, K1, Glory, whatever, or you do an MMA, you're still exposing yourself to this stuff. So you have to get it done. It's not just grappling. It's unarmed combat.
Now, I understand the toughness, and the toughness has to be done. You got to draw the line in the sand. But is there a gray area where you might say, okay, I might let this slide just slightly, just this once?
No.
No?
No, you're not fighting. I don't care how many tickets you sell. ISKA is just too reputable, too big. And if you're advancing your career from one of the local shows that are going to put you into the UFC, into Bellator, learn from day one the right way to do things. That's the most important thing. Learn good habits early in your career. I don't care what you do for a living. Bad habits will follow you your entire career. The good habits, well, this is what you do.
Now, it's funny how you brought up the whole thing with officiating and hearing what the officials hear. Is there a way, especially after this weekend, and I'm happy to have you, because I think you know where I'm going to go with this.
Yeah, I do.
I sat there as a combat sports journalist, and yeah, Fury got knocked down twice, but the majority of the rounds, at least in my eyes, under what boxing's guidance rules are, he really should have won. Even if you gave Wilder 3 10-8 rounds, and I only gave him 2, the 6th and the 12th, the 9th and the 12th, it still shouldn't have. Maybe I could see the draw, but the first judge, 115, 111, the other way, the first 6 rounds for Wilder, how can there be such a big difference, even if they're calling it 10-10 rounds, and one is seeing something completely different for 6 rounds? How is that possible?
It's not. Unfortunately, it's something that I am working very hard to change, and that is just raising the bar for my officials to be spot on. I can answer to the what I'm doing now as compared to what it used to be done in the martial arts, and whether it's kickboxing or MMA. 3 judges to do 12, 15 fights in a night it won't happen. I'm sorry. I tell the promoters I'm putting on minimum of 4. There has to be a break, because that one judge that's sitting there watching that first fight is not going to be as sharp watching, in his 36th round of the 12th. So you've got to constantly, move your judges around so that they're rested and they've had time to breathe. But in instances where there's just something's definitely wrong with this picture. If I'm sitting there and I see some Judge A, Judge B, 30-27, Judge C 30 for A, and then the third judge is 30-27 for B, for the blue corner. It happens, but if it happens more than once in the course of a night, I'm pulling that guy out of his chair and just having him sit by me for a little bit, and I'm replacing him, and we're going to talk about it. What's going on? Is you having a bad night? It's okay. everybody has a bad night. Whether you're a referee, everybody's been booed from the top, from Big John to Big Dan to everybody's had their moments that they wish didn't happen, but it happens. Yeah, it's just.
See, and I would even think it's tougher for an MMA ref or an MMA judge because there's a lot more. Let's face it, boxing is just one,
Yeah.
two. MMA you have on the ground, you have stand-up, you have this, you have submissions. You have, They have to have their eyes so much more.
Well, not only that, but give you an example. This weekend, the certification that goes on, and it's usually certification like Kevin McDonald, Robert Hines, Big Dan, that do the same course. You take it, and you're sitting there and you're watching literally a quick video of something going on. You've got to write down what it was, whether it be the submission leading up to it, so that you know what to expect. You're not judging somebody on what they've done. You're judging them on the effect of what they just did. And so when you are sitting there with was 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and you're doing written tests, you're doing the videos, you're scoring, and then you're doing the practical part. If you're a referee, show me that, so that you know what to expect. So if you want to be a ref or even a judge, you really have to have a background in the various disciplines. You have to know what submissions are. You have to know a big thing. A lot of my friends, because I'm USA Boxing also, wanted to come over, make that transition. You could be a great boxing ref to come into the cage where now you've got to anticipate and you've got to understand when somebody's about to pass out, when somebody's going to not only tap, but you got to know when something's going to break, snap, tear. That only comes from years of experience, and it's hard for them to make that transition. And the same thing with judging. You have to know what you're looking at. So I have to question when things get that bad. What was that person looking at? and you have to wonder about their future. And we've gone through this in Vegas with other major fights and people that it shouldn't be put on those type of fights that big. Boxing is more of it than the martial arts.
Now, I know Frank Trigg studied under John McCarthy. So, not to rubber stamp it, but if he's going to study under John, and John's, if you're going to say the best of all time, let's just say, you pretty much can rubber stamp, okay, this guy's safe, he's going to know what he's doing. Pretty much. When someone like a Chris Lieben just retires and then steps in to ref, is it a good thing to have fighters jump in so fast after retirement to go in?
Again, that's a great question, and a great fighter doesn't automatically make you a great official, and we've seen that in the past where somebody who outstanding black belt in jiu-jitsu, great, he did fairly well in the UFC and whatnot. Terrible official, and it's the same thing with being a great official. You don't necessarily have to have been. I know one of my friends, one of the guys that works for me, is an amazing official, but he's never really trained. And that's okay. You could be a fan of the sport and be very knowledgeable about what you're looking at as a judge, and it works. So to answer your question, no, I don't think it's a matter of time. It's a matter of, are you qualified? I would rather see them shadow. I'd rather see them, start out on an undercard and just see that they're comfortable in the way they move, the way they anticipate what's going on. It takes a lot to be a really good ref. I mean, I've seen a lot of guys with a great deal of heart and it's just and knowledge, and I've known them, and unfortunately, I can't, I can't use them, because then it just creates a problem.
See, it's funny how you say heart, because that actually segues into the next question. I wouldn't imagine someone of your stature has to deal with Dana White, you know, and Dana's a hot-tempered guy.
Mm-hmm.
Which in a way is good because he shoots from his hip. He doesn't, you know, hold back. And for most people, it's a good thing. But if he says something to the effect of, Mario Yamasaki, never again in one of my octagons, ever. He can't really call that shot. That's up to you guys, right?
Well, that's your gray area that you mentioned before. And that's unfortunate.
Because here's the deal. I know dealing, you know, deal with Bellator. Scott Coker's not the hothead to, in front of guys like me in a media room. He might take you to the side. Hey, look, this guy's a little shaky now. Something's going on. Pull him aside. Dana, in front of the whole entire media world, this guy's gone.
Yeah, that's wrong. And it's unfortunate that it happens. I'm proud to say one of my closest friends is Steve Mazzagatti. And
that's another one.
You know, and I thought, you know, I think the world of Steve, and I've learned a lot from him. And I've looked at my mentors have been Steve and Big Dan. You know, so yeah, you talk about Mario, you talk about Steve, and there have been others that, you know, less known. That have had the wrath of of Dana. And you're right, Scott Coker is an amazing person, and you know. But at the end of the day, the assignments have an influence. You know, Mark Ratner will, you know, call up the ABC, or to call up Corey Schaefer, you know, at the ISKA, and there's a core team. There's no doubt about it. There's a core team because when you're that. There's an enormous amount of pressure if you're a local ref who's done well, and you know we all have to start out at the smaller shows to get to the big show, but there's an enormous difference when you get there and you're on TV and you're mic'd up, and it changes everything. It changes everything. So they bring in their big names that they know are going to handle that. You've got to work your way up to that. So I don't think it's a big issue, you know, with going to see a UFC or a Bellator fight and seeing Dan or seeing, you know, the usual, you know, Brian Miner or, you know, one of the more regular referees that, you know, you got to work your way up there, and until you know you've made it when they boo at you. It's horrible, but especially if your wife's in the front row and she's saying, "I don't know him."
How do you feel about instant replay? Getting involved.
Again, I don't think it should override a referee's decision. It's great to look at a foul, you know, from that point of view. But again, the whole sport is just so quick and fast paced that anybody could be an armchair quarterback and, you know, look up at the screen and go, "You didn't see that punch to the back of the head?" You know, it is what it is, and unless it's a blatant. You know, the eye poke and all that stuff. You get to go back and look.
I will neither confirm nor deny being in the back covering an event, and might have said that once or twice myself. I'm just gonna ixnay on that. Oh, so going back with the blow, we're gonna. I don't even know how to phrase this. When the UFC brought in USADA, it was looked at as a good thing. They're strict as, you know, hell. They're not going to let nothing slide. Other companies not bringing in USADA, and it's still the Wild West. Okay, especially in Japan. One, Ryzen. Is there a distinct policy that should go into effect across the board? And as a matter of fact, I've even talked to Todd Anderson about this, where across the board, not only through the United States, but around the planet, no PDs whatsoever, just cut them right on a dime. And same thing with a set of rules, and not have someone like John or Dan have to go for every event that they go to, have to explain to fighters every single rule because every state is different.
That is a real issue that we're addressing now, that's being addressed. There should be and one set of rules, not the old unified rules, the new unified rules, or what has happened in neighboring states where by the third fight, all of a sudden, they have to readdress. Well, the commission didn't say we were using the new, we were going back to no. There has to be a unified rules across the board. And you're 100% right that even what we do now at the ISKA, we do the pro and am kickboxing, we do glory. One of the things I do when you asked about my day is to send out the rules. This is what we're going by. Give them to the promoters, send them out to every fighter who signs an agreement to know what to expect. As far as a rules meeting, well, at the pro level in MMA, the refs are going to the individuals and explaining what we're doing, why we're doing it, and this is what's going to happen. This is what you can expect from me. This is what they expect from you. So from that point of view, I think the playing field is leveling off. That we're seeing more uniformed rules across state to state. I think it was an issue, a bigger issue. It's becoming less of an issue. And people get more comfortable with what we're doing. There was the issue, what's a down fighter? The 4 points of contact versus 3. They looked at the Weidman fight. That seems to have settled down.
Do you have a Mount Rushmore of kickboxers specifically?
That I look at, and I mean, of course, there are so many. The Bill Wallaces of the world, Jerry Fast Feet Fontanez and Corley, and those guys. I mean, currently, oh yeah, and you go to Glory, and there's one great name there. I'm a big fan of Kevin Van Ostrin. I love watching him do battle because he's so unpredictable and colorful. Champions don't have to win everything. They just got to put on a great show. And entertain. They're entertainers. Fighters are entertainers. So
now, when you talk about great kickboxers,
mm-hmm.
one of, I'm not going to say the best ever, but a really, really damn good one, struggled a lot in MMA. Joe Schilling.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is there? Okay. A lot of kickboxers make the transition. Some do good, some do bad,
Mm-hmm.
But Joe Schilling, for some reason, really struggled way over the top struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Is there some disconnect?
No. It's not a disconnect. It's just what you're good at. He was just really good at fighting. I mean, I see a lot of guys go into the MMA that I've known that had superior kickboxing skills, and they hoping to keep it standing up, keep the fight from going down to the ground. We see that a lot, and unfortunately that doesn't always work. And when it goes to the ground, it becomes a very boring fight. Because they may have some bread and butter skills, but they not enough to keep it real. So again, but to that point, I think that's why we're seeing such an explosion of popularity among Glory, Karate Combat, some of the more popular stand up in the Muay Thai world. I've been reffing Lions fight with Brian Mine and Big Dan for the last 4 or 5 years. To me, it's the most exciting thing in the world. You just, from a referee point of view, you got to move. These guys are blasting one another with elbows and with knees, and the stand-up is probably, to me, one of the most amazing ways to fight. I mean, I'm a little too old for the MMA from my fight days, but to me it's a lot more exciting being able to throw that kick out there and looking at the Bill Wallaces of yesterday that are still at their age, or Ron Van Cleef, Mike Shidoshi. That just amazing fighters.
See, I'm more the for a big guy, it's gonna be hard to picture this, but I'm the more on the ground type guy. And I was talking to Stitch Duran about this at the last World Series of Fighting card, John Fitch and Jake Shields. And if I can tell you, they had 5,000 at the Hulu Theater. I think 4,999 were just up, standing, and booing. And the one person that wasn't, you're looking at him.
Yeah.
And I've asked every person that studies and loves Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's what MMA is based in. That's its origin, on the ground grappling, that type of style. Why the hell does it not get the respect that
It does. It does. But then the Brazilians are so disciplined in that regard. I mean, if you've ever been into a Renzo Gracie school or Helsing Gracie or whatever, the family, the respect there. Nobody goes out and blows their horn and whatnot. I think when you have a lot of these top fighters in the MMA and whatnot, they've all trained with some of the best ground guys in the world, and it's just quietness. They just get in there and do their submissions and whatnot. But you're right. You're not gonna see that kind of bravado and guys jumping up and down. Go to one of these. Have you? I'm sure you've covered the Grapplers Quest and Nagas, and the people that are there are amazing.
I it doesn't get the pop that everything else gets, but I don't know. I've always been drawn to it.
Oh, come on. When I was in college or high school on a wrestling team, only people that ever came were your mother, your father, and your girlfriend. And meanwhile, you'd have the whole school turn out for a basketball game or a football game.
You're local. That's a good setup. What in the blue hell is it about Bergen Catholic wrestling? That every single person I know from Jersey has asked me to bring this up. Are they giving their kids like steroids at Bergen?
No, it's just amazing talent. It's just incredible.
It's like a farm system
Yeah.
there.
Yes.
And around the country, I mean, like Arizona State has a big wrestling program. This place has. And when it goes down to like younger kids, everyone around the country.
Look at
Bergen
Nicky
Catholic.
Ryan. Look at Nicky Ryan. I mean, a phenom. Here's this kid, and I sanctioned Kasai. I've done all of them. Nicky Ryan comes out. Here's this like 15-year-old kid, 16-year-old kid that is matched up against a 30-year-old, and he beat him. And this was a 15-minute match, and he trains at Renzo, New York. And you get him on the floor. They have the comp team workout where you have 10 guys. You do 8 minutes, minute rest. And this kid will beat everybody. And his parents allowed him, and I spoke to his father about it, allowed him to drop out of school. He's homeschooled now, so he could train full time. And as a parent and whatnot, I don't know. I really don't know if I have that discipline to allow my son to drop out of school and homeschool him because he's that great at what he does. But then again, I'm very impressed, and I spoke to the dad, and I was like, and after watching this kid, I was like, yeah, it was a great decision.
Now, someone in your position, is there an age limit on a fighter where you say, you know what?
Oh,
a little bit.
From approving. Well, in that particular case, it was a little bit different. I mean, obviously in MMA, 18, and up until then, if we're doing any type of 15 can fight 16, 16 can fight 17, 17 cannot fight 18. So that's the rule. So no, I don't approve anything.
The reason why, I've worked a little bit with a company upstate, Ground and Pound Promotions, with Drew Nolan, and I really hope to work with him again. But there was a bantamweight there, and this kid he had no nickname, just a thin little, tiny, scrawny kid. I'm like, this kid's gonna get marked. I feel bad for him as he's walking in the cage. And like a minute 5 in, he's choking this bigger guy out, and I'm like, holy crap! I guess it's really true. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog.
Oh, let me tell you, I train at the Henzos in Brooklyn. I get to go to New York when I have time, and I've been tapped out by girls. I mean, there is absolutely no written rule that size, gender, whatnot. Talent is talent, no matter what. I mean, that's what makes that so amazing as a sport, is that it's an equal opportunity, humiliator. I think the probably for me, the first time I went to a seminar with Matt Serra, and I've always liked Matt, and I've always been, he's Long Island, the godfather of MMA, and our first World Cup champion. Matt is Matt, but I'll never forget. He passed my guard, went north south. He put his shoulder on the side of my face. And he's not a big guy.
Right.
I'm 220. I've never felt so much weight, and I had no idea how he did. How the hell did you do that? I thought my jaw was gonna snap. I was so impressed with it. I was like, wow, this unnatural strength and speed comes out of this man, and it's just mind-boggling. And somebody like Dan DeBee-Severn, another man, until you stand in front of him and you actually grab on and you realize you've made the mistake of your life. No, so I've rolled with guys that were 100 pounds lighter than me, and I've rolled with guys 100 pounds heavier, and I'm telling you, that's what makes the sport great. Yeah.
Now, you guys and the WKN split a while back.
Yeah, before my time. Yeah.
Do you think the ISKA would ever again meld into one from around the planet?
Wow. I don't think we have to. I think Corey's just getting back in from Italy this weekend, and there's something every couple of days all over the world. Not necessary. I think he's been able to put together an infrastructure of leaders all over the world, and I've been able to draw fighters when I'm working with a promoter locally, and we brought them in from Egypt, we brought them in from Ireland. When somebody wants an ISK world title or an international title or whatever, unlike the local setup where you can give away a local belt, XYZ, maybe a guy that sells a lot of tickets, but he's had 2 fights, so they offer him a title. Well, that's great, but meaningless title, meaningless belt. But to get an ISK title, it takes a lot more. So I have the ability to call up Corey, send him an information. This is what I have, guy. This is his record. We're looking, to challenge the person that's holding the belt, and we'll get in touch with one of our directors from anywhere in the world, and we'll work it out so that we can bring that fighter over. And consequently, if a fighter here wins the belt, well, now overseas, they want to challenge them. They'll fly that fighter over. So this has become our currency. The real prestige of having an ISK title, a real title that means something, and you get to go defend it anywhere in the world, or we can bring somebody here. So I don't really think we ever have to need to join forces with anybody. I think ISK has proven, that they are the leader in what we do.
So there is that connection between you guys around the planet.
Oh, yes, without a doubt, without a doubt. That's why, even in countries that don't have an ABC like we have here, they'll bring a Mike Mazzulli, who's the president of the ABC, over to England. They'll bring Corey also, from ISKA. So we're constantly where we have to be anywhere in the world. That's why I was going over to Japan, Karate Combat. Did their first one at the Parthenon in Greece, the second one in Miami, the third one we did at the Freedom Tower, and then now we're doing one in Japan. So I will go there representing ISKA, because we are the ones that train the officials, set the rules up, and that's our responsibility. In a lot of these promotions that are growing, they want to make sure that this is what we do, you guys do it, and they bring us, and we bring that team with us.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm almost positive on this. Bass Rutten was involved with you guys at the Freedom Tower, or?
Bash Rutten was the voice of Karate Combat. Him and Scott Wheelock, and Bass Rutten is probably one of my favorite people in the world. Nobody makes you laugh like him, and he's genuinely one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. That just you talk to him, and it's like talking to your best friend. I mean, the guy is just so down to earth, so grounded, and just humble at what he does. So he was there, and he's now he's the voice of a lot of things.
Yeah, yes. He'll be back in New York in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, with PFL. So out of everything you've done, from fighting to this, if you had a Sophie's Choice and you had to pick one, would you say one's the best?
That's kind of a very interesting to be answered honestly, and I've given so much thought to this. Where if we could do things over, what would we do? And having been in the game for 48 years, teaching, training, fighting, whatever, being a referee is probably the adrenaline rush to be able to be there, be the third person in the ring. It's something that as you get older, you got to know when to kind of stop. Unfortunately, that's when you look at everybody that's out there now, these guys have been doing it since day one. You got the next generation. So I like what I'm doing because I can make a difference in the sport that I love. I can really make it better for the promoters, for the fighters, make the sport grow. And so I guess, I'm always I still ref in other states. I don't do it in New York because I am the New York State Director. But I'll go to Foxwoods, or I'll go to Massachusetts or Missouri and be able to do what I love doing. But there's something about being a ref that is just, to me, it's the all-time high when I'm doing it. Just being so close to the people that that's the bad part. You admire these fighters. I'm a fan, but you can't be a fan when you're a ref or an official.
Or a reporter.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, the first time credentialed, I was told, listen, no hats, no T-shirts, no cheering, no oohing, no ahhing, no nothing. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, the first thing I was credentialed for was the New York Mets through Jay Horowitz. I was told, you gotta act like a professional. And I'm sitting behind Frank DeFord, who used to run the National. And I'll never forget it. Sid Fernandez is pitching against the Dodgers. By the third pitch Sid Fernandez threw in the top of the first, Frank DeFord was in front of me, piss drunk. And I looked at my cameraman, I'm like, well, if I'm told to act like a professional, this is going to be easy. But they're like, no, listen, he can get away with it. You can't. I'm like, that's not fair. And even covering MMA stuff. You can't you can't but when you have a crazy freaking knockout, when like an Overeem Ngannou, when someone just, how do you not go, it's a human reaction to gas.
Well, if you're a ref, you can't. And the other thing that's really tough is you've got to discipline yourself not to take pictures with people. That'll get you bounced out of being in the UFC or Bellator. You just can't do it, and it's very difficult. You're with people that are just, you're so amazed at, and there's an opportunity. But after the show, you can do stuff like that. But the officials, the judges, and whatnot, and you see a lot of it. But and especially because we're fans of this, we're blessed to do what we love and love what we do. But there's always those moments, especially if you're in the middle of you're the third man in, and something really, you're like, in the pit of your stomach, man, that must have hurt.
or especially like a low blow, and a guy just
you
up
can't
and
help,
down crying.
You can't help but go,
It's human reaction. It's like hitting your knee and your knee moving up.
Without a doubt. But you kind of hold your breath and just okay. I'm not gonna smile. I'm like and you can't help but laugh too sometimes. There's some you're in the middle of a ring and you two MMA guys and you roll around and one guy farts and and you know they're giggling. They're beating the hell out of each other. They in the middle of this they just think it's very funny. And you're the third guy there and you've got to not laugh at it. So.
See, I was going to ask you about that, but I decided not to. So, it's good how you answered that last question. Before I let you go, and this one's really interesting for me because where you are is something that I would literally give both my arms for. How does someone get into that side of the business?
That is a great question that gets asked a lot. And I have to laugh because it took me 48 years.
I got maybe 3, and I'm telling you right now, the last 2 are going to be. I'm going to be in a lot of pain. So,
aside from people think you take one of these courses with a Kevin McDonald or Robert Hines or John McCarthy or Dan Mergliotta, and you sit through and you get your certificate, and that's great. But unfortunately, that's not the what I use is to hire somebody, just because you've got this piece of paper. I'm glad you took the course, and that's step 1. But now you're going to shadow, you're going to watch, you're going to work your way up that from inspector to getting in the cage, so we could see how you're moving and whatnot. But when I started doing it, what I did was I got on every commission I could, wrote to them, did the application, and then it would cost me a fortune to fly to Missouri to do a show, get paid $200, come home. It cost me $400, but you do that to the point where all of a sudden now people start to recognize you, realize who you are. It's like opening any business, you are the business, and you're gonna dedicate your life to it, dedicate yourself to doing it, being everywhere, getting well known. Till all of a sudden, you find yourself doing bigger shows. But that's, you start out doing all the small shows and enjoying it because you have a lot more fun at the small shows.
Do you really?
I love it. I absolutely. It's like a lot of guys, USA Boxing, which has been part of my life, and I wear my dad's 1949 gloves around my neck and whatnot. And a lot of guys won't go pro as a ref because once you go pro as a boxing ref, you can't do the Golden Gloves anymore. You can't do the JOs, and that's where you have the most passion, the most excitement. And there's nothing more exciting than the Golden Gloves of, watching these kids get in there, watching, the Mark Breelings. And you ask any pro boxer as a journalist, and say, what was the greatest moment of your life? What was the greatest win? I will guarantee they tell you it's the Golden Gloves. There is absolutely nothing more prestigious than wearing those gold gloves around your neck or silver gloves, But that's it. So, you don't want to give that up. I wouldn't want to give it up. I wouldn't want to give up being an amateur boxing ref to be a pro. And it's great. But I'm never going to be Arthur McCanty, who's a good friend of mine and a great But I look up to these guys, and but I also think in the combat sports, the karate one, I'm as qualified as the next guy, and that only came from 15 years of watching and training and doing it, over and over. So pay your dues like anything else. Enjoy doing all the local shows, do them all, and travel, and go upstate. And my wife used to laugh at me. I'd get in a car, drive hours to North Carolina to do a show, drive to 5 hours to Massachusetts to do a show. Because you love doing it. That's what we do.
Ground and Pound was up in Whitehall, New York, when I was going up there.
Mm-hmm.
What a trip. 6 hours from Brooklyn.
Oh, I drove up to Syracuse. We had the snowstorm a couple weeks back. The weigh-ins were on Thursday for the Hot Park show from 5 to 7, 9:30. I was still there because guys were trapped on the LIE, and I was like, I'll weigh in tomorrow. No, they couldn't go home. So I stayed, did that. Did the show Friday. Saturday, drove up because planes went not to Syracuse. 17 was closed because of the snowstorm. And I'm like, oh, this is great. Yeah, I'm talking to the guys up in Rochester. It's like they already got a foot of snow down or whatever. But you do it. You just do it. You laugh at it. Now I laugh at it. I got a Jan 5th show in Syracuse. I can't imagine what the weather's going to be like. But, it is. If you want to do this, if you want to get to that level, Yeah, start now. Just do as many shows as you can. Get on as many commissions, shadow, pay your dues, and make a name for yourself. You also have to be good.
Right.
Yeah, that does help.
It might.
I mean, you'll make mistakes, and it happens. And there are times you just want to crawl out of the cage or climb out of the ring. But you know what? It is what it is. The majority of your stuff is good. People know that. You know, and your heart's in the right place, and your ego is outside the ring, you know, or the cage. That's the most important thing. Just love what you do what you love, be humble, and do as much of it as you can. And that's the secret to getting to the big show. Got to do a lot of little shows to get to the big show.
Cool. Everyone, Tom Sconzo, I want to thank him so very much for stopping by.
It was my honor. It was a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
See you at the next show.
Yep, definitely. Bobby will walk you out.
Thank you.
That way.
I'll show you